Welcome to the Ultimate Coach live book reading, chapter 35, the love chapter. As many of us heard so much about it this weekend. So if you're feeling the love right now coming from the Ultimate Experience, and even if you weren't at the Ultimate Experience in Arizona this weekend, but you could feel the vibration of love around the world, I just really want you to please place your hands on your hearts right now and just take a moment with me and breathe. And breathe in love. Breathe in love. Exhale. Extraordinary love. Breathe in love. Exhale. Unconditional love. Breathe in love. And exhale. Self-love. Breathe in love. And exhale, unified love throughout the world. And that is what we are here right now as we gather today to celebrate this chapter and to share together as we dive deeper. And I want to really acknowledge our ultimate author, Amy Blake Hardison, truly an outstanding, an extraordinary being who loves and serves from the depths of her soul to the tips of her toes. So
First rodeo people. Let's see if people showed up today after
can you please place yourself on mute, Emery? Thank you. And I want to also acknowledge Alan D. Thompson for his incredible impact in the research, all of the hours and hours that he spent, the time and dedication, which is truly priceless, that he dedicated for the commitment to create this book, which he knew and he had a calling and he had a feeling that it had the possibility to create massive impact around the world, which is exactly what it's doing. It's creating a vibrational impact, a love so big that I can't even put a name on it, a love so big that it's truly coming from the depth of my soul, and I know has changed me forever. So thank you again for joining us today as we take a deeper dive, and I invite you to please give yourself permission to read this chapter about you. Please give yourself permission to listen to this chapter about you. And when it comes time to share, please give yourself permission to honorably love yourself enough to share you, because you are surrounded. You are surrounded by love, and you are safe with this love right here and right now. So thank you. Thank you for loving you today and showing up here to be loved, to feel love, and to receive love from all who are present. So thank you. And at this time, I would love to pass it over to my amazing, incredible friend, Harry. Thank you so much, Harry, for saying yes and being here with us today.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. My pleasures. Right now in this moment, actually, I can smell a lot of love. It's so thick that it's come through my nose. That one of the things. That one of the thing about love, I could say, is that love is something special. It's beyond any boundary. And firstly, I would like to create something. I would like to really know more about you. I would like to invite you all to do one thing. Like, I would like to invite in this space that I would like to remind you one more time. But one question is, if you can travel back in time and remember the one moment that you are felt so much love, can you come back on time and remember about the time that you felt so much love and experience that? Could be one moment, could be a lot of moments that you felt touched someone loved you so much and you felt so much love. Thank you. I can see the faces, I can see the smile, I can see its emotion. I could say love is the gift that nature create is a gift for the human being, and no the other gift can compare. And it's in the ultimate code that one question of quite famous for the ultimate codes Facebook group is I also want to know more about you, what you think about that. Is that one question is, who would I need to be more loving person? If you have any answer come to your mind, can you let me know by typing your answer on your chat box, so I would know more about the answer for who would I need to be more loving person. Can I know more about that? Oh, beautiful, Dave. We are love, compassion, and non-judgment, present. Oh, feel compassionate, loving, forgiving, present, open and free, loving kindness, free, joy. Thank you all. I know that we on that journey. We're on a journey, pure present. We're in a journey of being more loving person. So let create that today. Let create today as a learning session. Let today create this session to be the space for us to practice and to be loving, to be one and each other in this room, and create. People can smell, can hear, can touch, feel love inside this room. Let create that today inside this room. So I would like to firstly, I would like to really thank Dinah and Caroline for accepting to become the reader today. And we need two more people who want to read the first front 2 pages and the back cover of the book. Is anyone have like the book on your hand that you would like to read the front 2 pages and the back cover of the book? Oh, we have a Marin. Hey, I see that. Is it anyone else? Oh, I see Wanda raise hand and put the hand back, but I still call you. So let's say we have 2 people. We have a Marian here and we have Wanda. So I would like to say, Wanda, can you read the front 2 pages, and Marian, hey, you're gonna read the back cover of the book. So for someone, if you are new for the book reading, I would like to explain a bit about the structure for today's session. So it's gonna be like, we're gonna have one person gonna read the back cover of the book, and we have Marian gonna read the back cover of the book. As come to Wanda, gonna read the front 2 pages. And after that, we have a Dinah and Karen gonna combine them and then read about the chapter of love. And after that, the all of them wanna share about what reflect on them. That time they're gonna share about themselves, what in them, what after reading, what come out of them. And after that, it could become the time for all of us to share what we got out of the book reading. That is gonna be a structure for us today to follow. So are you ready to create love inside this section? And please feel free to send any love to every other member inside this room and feel and create this session. People are like, oh, I overwhelmed with love. If they come out and say, oh, I'm overwhelmed with love, we are successful today. So let's do that today. So firstly, can I invite Marian? Yeah, do you have a?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, There are no testimonials on the back cover of this book imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hardison.
Yeah, can you help to open Wanda?
Okay, I'm good, thanks. Okay. Before you begin, Steve Hardison, note, thank you for reading the back cover and the first 2 pages each time before you read this book. I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being, and it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book is about you. This book about you is that it's endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you, Steve Hardison. P.S. Remember, every time you reread this book, please read the back cover and the first 2 pages before you begin. If you do this, your experience of this book will be totally different. Thank you.
Chapter 35. Love. Have I told you I love you today? Steve asks Amy. He will ask again in a few hours and once or twice more throughout the day. Amy opens the refrigerator. A sticky note clings to the milk. It reads, Amy, I love you. Thank you for being my wife, Steve. The date stamp in the upper right corner reads, now and forever. The toothpaste bears another note. This one says, I love you today, SFH. And there are the frequent refrains. What can I do for you today? And let me tell you how amazing you are. Amy gets it. She knows Steve loves her. It is the bedrock of her world. It is also signature Steve. Steve does everything with intensity, including how he loves. People notice. They can't help it. He speaks of his love for Amy openly, boldly, effusively. He creates Amy as only a master creator can. It's memorable because, frankly, it is exceptional in both senses of the word, and it smacks of possibility. Gary Mahler attended one of Steve Chandler's coaching schools. He said, Steve was there with his wife, Amy. I have never seen any man treat his wife so beautifully and lovingly. When he spoke with a power, love, and conviction I had never heard before. He spoke of his commitment to his family, his devotion to his wife, and how he lived his life in service. As I listened to him speak, I saw a new possibility for myself. I saw where I wanted, no, needed, to step up to be a better man, a better husband, a better father, and a better coach. Yayati Desai says, I adore the way he treats his wife, Amy, and the love he has for her. It's inspiring. If all husbands around the world were like that, the world would be a different place. I aspire to be like him. Being a coach like him is my second priority. Being a husband like him is my first. Dr. Lorraine Warren writes, I love the way he speaks of his wife, Amy. I love the way he loves her. I love how much he loves her. I love her because of how much he loves her. It's infectious. And I have never met her in person. I have even had the thought I would love to marry someone who loves me the way Steve loves and cherishes Amy Hardison. Who wouldn't? It's the stuff of fairy tales. So what is the secret? When people observe Steve and Amy, some say, I bet you guys never fight. Is that the secret? Definitely not. During her interview for this book, Ian Van Sant said, I'll tell you a funny story. I have never even told Steve this. Steve introduced me to Byron Katie. I knew her work, but when Steve calls me and says, I need to do something, I do it. So when Steve told me to go to Katie's school for the work, I went and took my entire staff. Steve was there with Amy. I don't know what happened, but one evening he and Amy were over in the corner in the hallway, and they were having some kind of disagreement or an upset. I just happened to be passing by. They were not screaming or yelling, but I see the energy. The energy was intense. They were standing eye to eye, toe to toe, like they were going to duke it out. And Amy, who probably weighs 120 pounds with all her clothes wet, was not backing down from Steve. He was looking down on her. She was looking up at him. They were going at it, but you couldn't hear a word. It was almost like a whisper. And I said, let me get a little closer. I just kind of lounged around over in the corner. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I said, I like that. I am going to learn how to do that. My partner of 14 years and I never had an argument, never raised our voices at each other, ever. I wanted to learn how to do that, and I did. So the secret is not that Steve and Amy never fight. It's not that they are naturally compatible. It's not that they are natural soulmates. Their children have often asked in disbelief, how did you two ever get together? Their magic formula is simple. They constantly create their love and their relationship. You create love by what you say and what you think, says Steve. When people fall in love, they say, she is the most amazing person I've ever met. And he is wonderful. I can't wait to see him. When they get married and a few years later, they say, all she does is complain and he's so selfish. You create love. You create falling in love. You create falling out of love. Steve uses an object lesson to teach this to his clients. When a client says he wants more love in his relationship, Steve writes a check for $1 million and hands it to him. Just bring me 1 cup of love and that check is yours. Steve has never paid out because the only place love exists is in language. This is the cup of love distinction. It is true for all the intangibles, trust, happiness, faith, love, etc. Steve elaborates, you don't have to create physical objects by your speaking. I don't have to say chair, chair, chair to have the chair exist. It's here. I can touch it. I can sit on it. But love is different. States of love don't exist in physical reality. If you want love, you must speak it into reality every day. If you stop speaking it, it will disappear. So many couples are like one particular client of Steve's who walked into his office disgruntled with his wife and dissatisfied in his marriage. Steve had him write down his thoughts about his wife. She nags, she's too heavy, I don't like the way she breathes. He had a long list. They created new thoughts. The client began to speak them into existence. In time, he transformed his relationship with his wife and the joy returned. The first place to go to change your thoughts and your speaking is your document, Van Denham writes. Steve shared with me how he keeps his marriage first in his life. Every morning he speaks who Amy is for him, recreating her daily. He challenged me to write down who Cynthia was for me. He invited me to read it every morning, but in addition to just reading it, he asked me to also think of one thing I could do each day to show her that she was the most important person to me. I have to admit it took me close to 3 months before I started to automatically think of her needs before mine. I did not realize how selfish I was or how much I took her for granted. I knew that she completed me and was strong in areas that I was weak. However, it was a selfish love. This one exercise has helped me realize that love and relationships need to be created daily. Our love has grown and deepened because I still do this every day. This one experience saved my marriage and family. When you sear your love into your soul through consistent creation, other things like ego, frustration, and being right tend to recede. Lisa Heischer met Steve at University of Santa Monica. She observed, he shared personal things about his marriage and negative sides and how he wanted to shift. I thought, who is this guy that just says it like it is? He doesn't care if he looks bad, if it was the truth of his week. I got that Steve took life and love seriously. How seriously does Steve take love? Seriously enough that he revamped his document to supercharge his daily creation of Amy. I am the universe became I am the universe and Amy is the center of my universe. I am expansive and spacious, especially for and towards her. Some of his statements received only slight modifications, as Steve added, especially for, with, to Amy. For instance, I am happy and peaceful became, I am happy, peaceful, especially with Amy. Several statements became far more Amy-centric. A few of these are, I am loving kindness. I am that no one is worthy of my judgment and that everyone is worthy of my love. I do not judge Amy. I only love her. I love everything about her. I am the distinction, loving kindness to her, for her, and with her. She senses my love and is drawn to me because I love her for who she is and who she isn't, and for what she is and what she isn't. I am her loving kindness, but only always. I am strong, healthy, and attractive, and I am all of these things for the center of my universe. I do what I do in these areas to support and honor my queen, Queen Amy. I am madly in love with my brilliant, I am madly in love with my brilliant, gorgeous, intelligent wife, Amy Blake Hardison. I create ways every day to learn more about her and fall further in love with her. My heart skips a beat when I see or think of her. In 2017, Steve began signing all his texts, emails, letters, and notes with SFH/KAB. It is another example of the radical recreation Steve has undertaken for the sake of love. Steve explains. My father-in-law, Kent Anderson Blake, was the happiest, kindest, most generous man I have ever met. I was with him on July the 16th, 2017, when he drew his last breath. Just minutes prior to that, Amy and I were alone with her father. At that time, I prayed to God aloud, so my father-in-law could hear. I said that I did not know the laws of the hereafter, but I had an extraordinary request. I asked God and Kent to leave me some of his being, some of his spirit, some of his nature, some of his attitude, and some of his aptitude for happiness, kindness, and generosity. Having a little more Kent Blakeness in me would be a gift to Amy and a blessing in our marriage. Shortly after this, Amy, my daughter, Stephanie, and I watched on as Kent Anderson Blake returned to his Father in heaven. When I got home and wrote the experience in my journal, the Spirit spoke to me clearly and concisely, saying, "From now until you pass, include the uncapitalized initials of Kent Anderson Blake after your initials." I have done that. Each time I sign SFHKAB, I remember my wonderful father-in-law and recreate myself to be a little more like him. The result of all of this creation is palpable. Lisa Hale, who observed Amy and Steve at one of Steve Chandler's ACS events, says, "I loved the adoring look Amy had on her face towards Steve. That is not something you can fake. They have created this adoration, this renewing of love between them." Is that all it takes? While the daily discipline creation is foundational, there are a few other things that have contributed to their bliss. Extreme differences can challenge a couple, but they can also bond them. Louise Phillips says, "Steve lives really large. He is a real life force, and he's really lucky to have Amy, who is his cool water." Patrick Provost uses a different analogy. "I think Steve is like a kite that flies high into the air. Amy keeps him grounded. I've seen that over the years. Amy has been brilliant for Steve." Paul Waite, a mission companion and close friend of Steve's for nearly 50 years, says, "Steve is a hard-charging, hard-working, high-energy guy. He could be demanding and tough to live with. Amy has been his anchor. He would be out there killing dragons, and she's back there with a very steadying personality, which is good for him. He came from a place where he didn't have that stability." Marina Hale says, "To put it simply, there can be no Steve without Amy. Her unconditional love, her ability to let Steve be Steve, and the hours she spends listening and supporting him make Steve possible. In spite of their differences, they are aligned in their basic values, such as finances and family. They prefer a simple life with downtime, which they spend together. They aren't big foodies. They prefer Amy's home-cooked, healthy meals to going to restaurants. They love to exercise, read, travel, and go to movies. They love to spend time with their kids and grandkids. They enjoy being together, and mostly they talk. Well, Steve talks twice as much as Amy, but he has always talked the birds out of the trees. They share their hopes, dreams, frustrations, and joys. They share what they are learning and the details of their days. They express appreciation and say, "I love you" a lot. Since Steve's office is at their house, they connect throughout the day with hugs and words. They pray together morning and night. It's a lot of small things, but the aggregate is substantial. And what is Amy's perspective? She relates. Several years ago, Steve was getting ready to run some errands. He always makes sure to say goodbye and give me a kiss before he leaves. On this occasion, we engaged in some light-hearted banter. He said, "You know, it is going to be pretty rough on the women out there when I'm walking around looking this good." "Well, you just remember you belong to me," I said. At that moment, Steve got serious, looked me in the eyes and said, "I would never forget that. You healed me. You are everything to me." I love that because it reflects not only Steve's love and devotion, it reflects all we have gone through to get to this place of unity and peace. I am everything to Steve, and he is everything to me because we have a commitment to love each other forever, which is distinct from staying married. We are committed to being madly in love. That kind of love isn't cheap. It takes a lot of soul stretching, forgiveness, and patience. In our case, and maybe everyone's, it also took a lot of healing. I was raised in a home with loving, nurturing parents. I experienced unconditional love and an emotionally safe environment without criticism and drama. It was only natural for me to bring that into our marriage. Over the years, that filled Steve's holes. I have been so blessed to experience being cherished by someone who has so much love to give. He sees the best in me beyond what I actually am. I have learned so much from him. Steve is charismatic, dynamic, and connects with people better than anyone I have ever met. Over the years, some of that has rubbed off on me. He has been my biggest cheerleader and my biggest fan. Our marriage has been a wonderful adventure and an extraordinary privilege. Each day is sweeter and our love greater. Steve has a healthy respect for the challenges of love. He frequently says that relationships are the hardest work we will ever do in life. But when we do the work, the joy is exquisite. Love beyond the center. Amy is the center of Steve's universe, but surrounding that center are concentric circles of love that include Steve's clients, friends, and people he has just met. Love is, I am that, is part of Steve's document. He says it, he lives it, it shows up wherever he goes. In 2002, Steve spoke at the University of Santa Monica's graduation ceremony. When it was his turn to speak, Steve walked to the podium and looked out at the graduates. He stood in the presence of love. He was unhurried. He held the room in his eyes. After 5 minutes in clock time and an eternity in speaker time, he boomed into the microphone, "I love you." Then he sat down. Chills went up and down my spine, recalls graduate Stephen McGee, the 2002 Student of the Year. He didn't talk about love. He demonstrated it. It was the most powerful non-speech speech I have ever heard. It was an unorthodox graduation talk. Steve could pull it off because he is well practiced at standing in the presence of love, taking it in and sending it back out. Sorry. He does it one-on-one. I'm sorry. And he does it with large groups. He did it at the Coaching Intensive, co-hosted by Rich Livin and Steve Chandler in London in 2014. Oh my goodness, too much talking. Michael Sower attended his event. It was the first time he saw Steve Hardison. He relates. As soon as Steve stepped on the stage, from that point on, nobody moved a finger. And it's not like he got up there with some presentation to deliver a sales pitch or anything like that. He just stood there and started talking. My attention span is not great. So as the previous speakers were presenting, I was listening while simultaneously messaging my date for the night. Some people were going to the bathroom, others were coughing. As soon as Steve got on that stage, silence. It was like we were in a library. He spoke for about 3 hours, spending the first 45 minutes expressing his gratitude to other people. There was nothing about himself. Steve started by acknowledging Steve Chandler and Rich Living for what they were doing. He talked about their friendship and the love he has for them. Then he went from acknowledging Steve and Rich to talking about Amy and the love he has for her. Everyone started crying. I'm crying. It takes a lot for me to cry, especially in public. I felt the unconditional love he has for her. I have never seen in my life such a profound display of love from one human being to another. I've never seen anything close to that. No one was moving, and we were all in tears. He had invited the guy who served him breakfast in a coffee shop that morning. There were other guests as well, people Steve invited. He started speaking to them, acknowledging them in a way that they probably had never been acknowledged in their life. Lisa Berkovitz shares her experience of that day. I knew about Steve, but I had not met him. We knew Steve was coming. His reputation preceded him, and we were all excited. When he arrived with Amy, they came and sat at the front of the room. Steve made it very clear that he did not come as a speaker. He had not come with a prepared talk. I'm super energetically sensitive, so that tends to be how I take in information. My experience was that the entire room was literally filled with light and love. It was pulsing, just radiating through the room in an indescribable manner. I was not the only one who had that experience. John Patrick Morgan says of the London event, "My applause was not for the love that came from Steve. This love was not his. He never created it. He never owned it. He just allowed it to come through him. My applause is for the work Steve has done to clear the way that gets in the way of love. Steve is definitely present to love. He is present to the magnificence of people. He is present to the privilege of friendship and emotional connection. He is present to people's courage, grace, and grit. And sometimes that love wells up and nearly swallows Steve whole. At such moments, it may render him temporarily speechless. It may summon his tears. It may find release in a profusion of acknowledgement, gratitude, and love. Or it may do all three, like it did in London."
Thank you, Dinah. Good job. Love in action. Steve sees opportunity and acts on that opportunity, says Ward Andrews. I think that is the difference. We all see the opportunity and maybe we step back. Steve steps forward and he'll do it day and night. I received a text from him last week at 3 o'clock in the morning. It says, "Loving you." At 3 o'clock in the morning? When Steve is present to love, he doesn't just bask in the warmth. He texts, he calls, he visits, he acts. Dina Chelsea writes, I love that he will stop by my house just for a hug and then race off in his Porsche. Steve worked with Bill Jensen back in his Rodell days. Bill says, Steve has called me on a regular basis and chatted. In other words, he was the initiator of keeping our friendship going. When a person reaches out and says, I like you and I want to keep talking to you, that constitutes a great person. Steve is masterful at micro bursts of love, but often he invests more time and effort. When he goes to Utah, he drops by and visits teachers who taught him in elementary school, junior high, high school. He thanks them for taking an interest in him and for teaching him life lessons. By his actions, he tells them their life and their career matter. He has done this for a long time. Sylvia Carter was Steve's English teacher in junior high. I think somebody needs to go on mute.
Excuse me, can somebody please?
Thanks, Tanya. Sylvia Carter was Steve's English teacher in junior high. It was her very first year of teaching, and she says, anytime Steve was in the room, there was energy, enthusiasm, and smiles. After junior high, Steve stayed in contact with Sylvia.
I'm not sure about Sam.
You, Gracie?
Thank you. She says, when Steve got home from his mission, he told me he wouldn't get married until he had my approval of his bride. I told him I would hold him to it, though I figured when he was smitten by some young lady, he wouldn't remember. But one day I received a phone call from Steve. He told me he was in love and he needed me to give my approval. I was honored. He brought that sweet girl to my house and we visited for a long time. I gave him my solid approval. When Steve learned that his good friend, Rick Glauser, was dying of cancer, he called Rick and told him he was going to take off work and they could do whatever Rick wanted. Rick wanted to take a farewell tour, says Nan Glaser, Rick's wife. Rick wanted to see friends they went to in high school with, people he had worked with, and some family. So Steve drove up to St. George, picked up Rick, and they drove around Utah for 2 weeks so Rick could say goodbye. This meant so much to Rick that Steve did this. If there was a word to describe Steve, it is love. Kind, real, authentic, meaningful love. Steve has coached Clayton Mask, the CEO of Infusionsoft, now Keep, for over a decade. On occasion, Steve stops by their headquarters. He doesn't just focus on Clayt or the executive team, he visits with everybody. Tara LaRue Stradley says, when I met Steve, I was Clayt's executive assistant. I got to visit with Steve here and there. We became friends on Facebook. I posted 2 things on Facebook that he reacted to. Once I posted about loving flip-flops, and he brought me a really nice pair of brand new flip-flops. Another time I posted a meme about chocolate being bigger than my head. He brought me 5 or 6 Hershey candy bars taped together so I could put them beside my head and show that I found a piece of chocolate that had literally was bigger than my head. That was so unexpected and so funny. Steve notices and acts, not occasionally or when it is on his to-do list. It is his way of being. Stephen McGee says, I said something about Jesus Christ in a session once. I mentioned that, in my opinion, Jesus wasn't floating around in white robes. I think he was in people's faces. A week later, this big, heavy statue of Jesus Christ showed up at my house. He does stuff like that all the time. A lot of people have the thought. The difference is Steve takes the thought and goes to Amazon, finds the statue, has it shipped to his house first so he can sign it, write about it, write on it, and then repackage it and ship it to me. I see all that stuff. Damn. Clients. Steve loves his clients. He gets weepy just thinking about them. They feel it. Michael Shantz says of his coaching sessions, I experienced his absolute dedication to me and my path while I was with him. For 2 hours, I was given his undivided attention, heartfelt listening, and unconditional support. In short, I was engulfed with love. That was my experience with every coaching session with Steve for about 1.5 years. Sometimes Steve loves his client with soft kid gloves, sometimes with coarse grit sandpaper, like when he gets in someone's face to wake them up, or when he calls a spade, or a client a liar, or a pretentious son of a bitch. Sometimes he is thrusting his clients into their possibilities. Alison Watts writes, about halfway through our year together, Steve vigorously loved me into using my voice. Steve always loves me, but he really loved me that day, and I felt his commitment to me this day, maybe more than any other. As my homework, Steve invited me to call at least 10 people and share my document of who I am with them. I always get to say yes or no to his invitations. Because of childhood traumas, I believed it was dangerous for me to speak my truth. I reluctantly said yes. I knew I could figure out how to do this with the least amount of risk. Steve saw what was happening, and he said something I will never forget. If you don't do this, we're done. I'll consider you resigned from our agreement and our work together will end. Wow. Big tears came up and I got scared. I knew I really had to do this. I was terrified. And at the same time, I have never felt so much love. He knew this was exactly what I needed, and he was taking a strong stand for me. I knew in that moment that Steve was more committed to my evolution than to my comfort. And suddenly I felt profound gratitude for such deep love and commitment from him. I did my homework and practiced using my voice to create myself and my world. And after the first 4 or 5 times, it became fun and much easier and much more natural. I ended up making about 30 calls. Now I practice using my voice every day. Steve has no problem using sandpaper love when the occasion demands it. But he is no stranger to the softer side of love. Stephen McGee puts it succinctly. The guy tears up a lot. Karan Rai says, I tend to hold myself to pretty high standards, and I hold others to high standards too. So it takes a lot to impress me. But Steve has impressed me time and time again. Of all the amazing things he does, it is his level of compassion that has impressed me more than anything else. 2 specific occasions stand out. They were probably 2 of the more powerful sessions I had with him. The first occurred at one of those times when I was feeling stressed about something or other. We were having this conversation about what's important in life. And he looked at me and he said, what are you stressed about? You're going to die, and none of your problems are going to go with you when you die. Then he said that we were going to visit one of his former clients. He was a high-powered attorney. He had made a lot of money. He was in his 70s and was struggling with dementia. He was living in his home that was a care center. We drove to the care center. Even though this was the first time I met this gentleman, I could see he was just the shell of his former self. I don't even know if he recognized Steve. The thing that will always stick with me is how Steve held his hand and caressed his hair. He was so present with him. It was beautiful to watch a man be that present with another man. We spent about an hour with him. The second experience was when Steve asked me if I would be open to visiting somebody who was about to die. I was. And so we went to this elderly woman who had terminal cancer. He visited her regularly. She was living by herself in a small, cluttered house. When Steve walked in, she lit up. Steve lit up. I was moved by the depth of humanity that he brings into these situations. Compassion and humanity naturally flow out of him, and it requires nothing for him to be him. There are so many things that Steve does that are absolutely incredible. His ability to get you to see the big picture, his ability to get you to believe in yourself, his ability to take really complex issues and make them so simple, his ability to get you to take action. But the thing that inspires me the most is the depth of his humanity and his compassion. Stephen McGee says, Steve has taught me so much about openness and loving and really being a man, a strong, grounded man with heart, with ferocity and velocity, but also with true loving. Strangers, aka friends. Steve loves people on sight, says Tara LaRue Stradling. He is unlike anyone I have ever met. Indeed, Steve loves big and he falls in love quickly. Stephen McGee says, I've seen it a number of times. A cab driver would come pick me up after a coaching session, and before the cab driver would drive off, Steve would be hugging the cab driver. This is in 5 minutes. Steve could fall in love with a person in the time it takes to check out at a grocery store or to get through an airport security line. In 2014, Steve and Amy were in Istanbul airport. Steve was standing behind a man who was stylishly dressed and appeared to be in his late 30s. They attempted to communicate, but they spoke different languages. They tried sign language and pantomime without much luck. They shrugged and were on the verge of giving up when Steve pointed to the younger man's shoes, bent over, touched them, and gave him the thumbs up. The younger man grinned. A mutual love for trendy, unique shoes toppled the language barrier. Steve raised his voice and asked if anyone knew Turkish and English and would be willing to translate for them. A 20-ish man volunteered. Their conversation got traction. By the time they got to the checkpoint station, this Turkish man had taken off his necklace and was putting it over Steve's head. Steve was emotional. They had connected. It was brief but deep. Steve's son, Clint, makes this observation. He's always meeting people. He's constantly having interactions with people, the frequency of which would be exhausting. But he has this impactful interaction with the cashier at the grocery store, and then with the guy at the gas station, and then with the woman who owns the dry cleaning business. That takes so much sheer energy, enthusiasm, and interest in other people. It also takes confidence. He is bold in ways that I would never be. And because he does that, he finds himself up to his elbows in somebody else's problems, but he's willing to jump in and help them solve them. One time, he was at the Arizona Center in Phoenix, and there was a woman selling popcorn from her popcorn machine. He watched her for a few minutes, and then the next thing I know, he's coaching her on how to create more business. For him, the stakes are extraordinarily low. But he sees that for her, the stakes are extraordinarily high. He sees how she could be a more effective version of herself. And as they speak, she says that she doesn't want to always be selling popcorn. One day she wants to be like Iyanla Vanzant. So Dad pulls out his phones, calls Iyanla, and then lands hands his phone to the popcorn woman. Steve loves this sort of thing. When he retires, if he retires, he envisions plenty of days where he meanders around, meeting people and helping them. But he is not waiting until his retirement. Following the London event, Michael Serwa had a trip to Los Angeles planned. He was to be part of a coaching movie called Leap. If you live in England, Phoenix is practically next door to Los Angeles, a mere 373 miles. So Michael booked a session with Steve and a flight from Los Angeles to Phoenix. And he relates, I went to Steve's house and he asked me what I would like to talk about. I told him that after 10 years of personal development, I was in a good place. I didn't really need help with anything in particular. I basically wanted to spend time with him, so we did. He happened to be free that whole afternoon. We spent at least 5 hours together. We went to meet some of his clients in his Porsche. I love that. He's this religious man, he is love, yet he drives a Porsche. On my website, I say that I am as materialistic as I am spiritual, and as egocentric as I am compassionate. I clearly see how you don't have to choose a side. So we went to Infusionsoft. He called the CEO at the time. Steve talked to everyone the same way, from the receptionist all the way to the CFO. Then we went to the bank. There were some teenagers, 13 or 14-year-olds, skateboarding outside of the bank. He started talking to them. Again, he was talking to them like they were his own kids, except he never met them before. I consider myself a compassionate person. You better be as a coach, right? But my compassion is selective. If I know you and I like you, I can be very compassionate. But Steve's compassion is unconditional. He doesn't care if he's talking to a homeless person, a kid on a skateboard, his client, or his wife. He's the same with everyone. I'm not rude to strangers, but I don't engage with them on the same level Steve does. The way he talks to people is an art form. I've never seen anything like it before. He's not doing it to impress me. I'm already impressed. And he doesn't care if I'm impressed or not. He's doing it because that's what Steve does. Latrina Williams is the manager of the CVS drugstore close to where Steve lives. On the day after Thanksgiving in 2015, Steve walked into her store with a tangle of non-working Christmas tree lights in his hand. And he said, I need to replace these. And Latrina relates, during that short interaction, a sense of peace came over me. I didn't want to seem weird, so I continued to focus on showing him the lights. Once we were at the register, Steve asked if we had been open on Thanksgiving and if I had been able to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with my family. I explained that we were open on Thanksgiving and my family lives in Louisiana. After I said that, it was like, stop the presses, Steve said. So you had to work on Thanksgiving and you didn't get to have dinner with your family? Did you at least have a Thanksgiving dinner? And when I said no, Steve said, I'm calling my wife Amy. You're going to come and have dinner with us. I was floored, overjoyed, and nervous. And when the day came, I was at peace all over again. I was welcomed by the Hardisons as if I were a family member coming home for a visit. Since that day, Steve and his family came into my life. It hasn't been the same. Steve has given me books, encouraged me with kind words, and stopped by the store to give me hugs. He has been a father figure, a role model, a big brother, the favorite uncle, a man that I'm honored to say I know and love. The gift of love and compassion that Steve Hardison expresses to all is one of the most genuine gifts one could give. The love that Steve has for his wife, his family, and friends is a delight. One would think, how can one person have this much love and express it to everyone? I am grateful to be a recipient of the love that Steve Hardison possesses. Stephen Poitier, the ecclesiastical leader of the Mormon congregation where Steve worships, recalls the Sunday when Steve was teaching a class for the men. I remember Steve bringing in a man who was blind and who sold brooms on the corner near our homes to share his story. I had passed him at least weekly. Steve Hardison gave me a chance to actually get to know this man. This is clearly something the Savior would have done. It is far more appropriate than just speaking about Jesus' teachings. How did Steve get to know this man and his story? Steve was driving home when he saw a man standing on the corner in the 115-degree heat selling brooms and mops. Steve pulled into the parking lot and started visiting with him. He learned his name was Sebastian Ibanez and he was from Mexico. He was here earning money to send to his family. Steve drove to Rosa's, the local Mexican food restaurant, and brought him a bottle of Mexican Coca-Cola. Whenever Steve drove by, if Sebastian was on the corner, Steve would take a few minutes to stop, visit, and buy a broom. Over time, Sebastian told Steve about the adversity he had encountered in his life, including his blindness. He also attested that God had watched over him. Steve asked him if he would be willing to come by and share his experiences with Steve's church class. He agreed. By the time Sebastian was finished, more than a few men had tears in their eyes, and by the end of the week, many had new brooms. Conclusion. Michael Sarwa says of the time he spent with Steve in Arizona, "My coaching experience with Steve was phenomenal. Even just walking into his house was amazing. Here is this compassionate, giving, Jesus-loving guy with all those kids and all those grandkids, and what is the first thing I see? A big picture of himself on the wall. I love that. Who says that you have to choose other people over yourself? Or that if you love yourself, it's somehow selfish? Steve is definitely not selfish, but he sure as hell loves himself. And I think that's apparent to anyone who interacts with him. It really goes well with the theory that I have. For us to be able to truly love other people, we have to truly love ourselves first." Perhaps Michael is onto something. Yes, Steve truly loves himself, but perhaps he has also tapped into eternal love, the kind that is limitless. Perhaps that is why, after Steve has loved himself, there is plenty of love left over. So Amy feels like the most loved woman in the world. And enough left over so his clients experience a tsunami of love. A.J. Richards. And enough left over to care about a blind man on a corner and to befriend Latrina at CBS. And enough left over to love the person he will meet tomorrow and the next day and the day after that.
What a blessing. Thank you, Caroline. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge and also say thank to all the readers. Thank Wanda, Marion, Dinah, and Caroline. Thank you for the way that you interact with your speaking, the way that you interact with your reading. I just feel like you like the energy and you are into your reading so much. And thankful for create a space for us to learn and about love. And also secondly, I would like to say thanks Steve. I was just love was so formless and so human that through the way he living, the way he expressed that was so creative. I would like to thank for that. And now will be the time for all reader to share But before that, I would love to have I have some thought on my mind. I also would love to share as well. When the path that is steep talking about we're going to die, and none of the following wanna stay. I remember a few days ago, I traveling and I went back home and say I really miss my parent, so I want to come back home and stay with my parent, and love with me is about staying with my parent. I remember I look at my dad and would say, when I die, what do I remember about my dad and me and my dad? And I remember that I didn't remember much. And one of the things that I aware that is when I spend time with my dad, but is you know, one thing I aware that when you do something over and over again, like you do not remember about that much. If you brush your teeth, you will not remember like how you brush your teeth. And so I say, oh, how can I make that count? You know, when I want to make the time with my dad count. I don't want like it's when I die I say, oh, I spend time with my dad. No, I want to make the time I and my dad count. So 2 days ago I say, hey, Dad, let do something different. We're not just only spend time, but do something different. Let go to the normally I go with market with my mom and say, Dad, let go in the market and having fun with each other. And we having so much fun that day. And so now, you know, right now when I think about my dad, I say, hey, we spend time in the market, this experience. So now I have more time. So what I'm going to do from now on, I'm gonna make the time with my dad count, make it count. So that was a thought on me. So right now I would like to open space for the reader. So I would like to start. Is Marion here?
Yeah.
Okay, so Marion, can you, the time, if you have any thought about your reading, you can have a share for it.
Well, I'm not sure if the most important thing from this reading comes from me reading the last page. I mean, of course, what was read is about me, and the most important thing that I heard today and that I recognize as being super important for me every time I read that chapter is that I have to love myself first and be totally in love with myself. And that to me is the key for being able to love others truly. I've tried it the other way around and it has not worked that well. So that's what I have to say. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, every love, you need to love yourself first. I remember one time I speak with Sarah Nani, and she's yeah, we speak and she said one thing. You know what Steve said to me, that is every energy, if you want to send loving energy to anyone, that loving energy needs to come through you first. If you cannot receive the loving energy, you cannot come through you to other person. So if you're not loving yourself and you're not holding the energy, it's not come through you. It's gonna, you know, you cannot receive what you can send what you can receive. It's kind of what it remind me the time that I speak with the Sarah Nani. So Wanda.
Yeah, that is the same thing that stood out for me. You know, about how you have to love yourself first. And excuse me. And in an odd sort of way, I think I expanded on that yesterday, because I was watching a show and it was a part of a series. And the episode I was watching was about stress. and they talk about chronic stress, you know, and the impact it can have on your health and all of that. And I just had this opening for myself around understanding my life experience and how it had impacted me. And basically, I've been living with chronic stress for as long as I can remember. And in a sort of odd sort of way, that came back to me in a full circle kind of way, where the love for myself expanded unexpectedly, because I thought, wow, Wanda, you're really powerful, and you're really amazing to have lived life like that and be constantly up against this chronic stress. And you're here today. And in many ways, I'm thriving. And so the love expanded for me towards myself in a very surprising and unexpected way. And it just reaffirms for me again that nothing is coincidence, nothing is by chance. I love myself. And it feels really, really good to say that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Wanda, for sharing that. I love myself. You know, when you talk about stretch, I think, Wanda have a stretch. It's so surprising for me. So Dinah, oh, you have a lot of emotional, like, rolling coaster when you're reading. I would love to hear from you, Dinah.
Oh my goodness, you've no idea how much emotion. But first of all, I just want to say what an absolute honor it was to read this chapter. And when Tanya asked me if I would like to read a chapter, and she said the ones that still hadn't been taken, I didn't even read this chapter to know that I needed to read this chapter, because it was called Love. And it feels an absolute divine order that I'm reading it today after the 2 days that I've just had. And after the struggle that I had to get here. And some of you will know that 2 weeks ago, I thought I couldn't come because of my visa. And then I went through this whole series of emotions about that and things that I learned. And I've spoken for many weeks about the work that I need to do. And I've said in these calls before that I felt something in my heart center that I thought for a long time was trauma, stuck trauma, and that I needed to do the work to get there. So I want to share something about love that happened to me this weekend. I had the pleasure to meet Steve Hardison. Caroline, my friend on the call, introduced me. First of all, he either heard my name or repeated my name back as Diamond, which I'll come to in a second. And Caroline said, this is the visa. This is Dinah with the visa. And he's like, oh my gosh, it's so great that you're here and everything that you did to get here. And he acknowledged the messages that I'd posted and the things that I acknowledged that I was learning through not being able to come. And he said that, you know, this has been about creation and what you've created. And I said, and also believing. And then he said to me, Dinah or Diamond, remember, it's the journey, not the destination. And then he was really quiet and he said it again. And we both had sunglasses on and I could just see his right eye. And I just looked in his right eye and a voice in my head or my voice in my being said, Dinah, hear this. Hear this. And we didn't say anything else, and he hugged me. And I went back into the room, and JP Morgan was talking. And JP Morgan was saying his declaration to a really beautiful piece of music. And I've heard lots of declarations, all of which are magical. But for some reason, JP Morgan's declaration spoke to me as absolute truth. I felt it in my being. It felt like absolute truth. And then my mind went to Steve and what he had said to me. Remember, it's the journey, not the destination. I'm very visual, and all I could see was this huge dam, like the Hoover Dam, like a massive dam. And it hit me in that moment that this thing that I have had in my heart center that I've said for years, it's a trauma, it's a block. I realized exactly what it was. It's love. It's love. And I realized that I have built that dam. When I went home, I looked up Diamond, because he kept calling me Diamond. And I looked up the meaning of diamond. And I read the diamond in parts fearlessness, invincibility, and fortitude. And I looked up fortitude, and it said courage in pain and adversity. And it said the diamond clears emotions and mental pain, reducing fear and bringing new beginnings. So I feel extremely grateful to Steve's love. I felt it. I learned a big lesson this weekend. And I feel really grateful to have been asked to read this chapter. Because I know I'm someone that has a huge amount of love, and I hadn't realized till Caroline read that last page something else. I immediately after that, in my book at the weekend, I wrote, my love is bigger than all the oceans of the world and stronger than a tsunami. And then on the last page, it talks about this love of the tsunami. So I guess my declaration is to allow that love and to lose that dam. And then the last thing that I realized was that I have felt shame. There's two lovely people on this call who I met, Violetta Jeans, and I can't remember your first name, so Mr. Jeans, who asked me when they met me a question about relationships. And for the first time in a very long time, I said very honestly to them, no, I'm single, but I'm really open to meeting someone and to bringing love into my life. Because I realized I have felt so full of shame that I've shut myself off, that I haven't been able to admit that is what I would like. So thank you to the Jeanses for asking me the question. And thank you for listening to me and allowing me to read this chapter that I could probably write a book on my feelings about this chapter. But I just wanted to share that with you. So thank you. And thank you for the love that I receive from this group every week. It's immense. So I love you all.
So you are not only diamond, you are diamond open to receive love. It's kind of that, or diamond fearlessly receiving love. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
The diamond with love. So can our group send us like a lot of love, make her flooded with love. Take a moment and send love to Dinah.
Thank you.
Thank you for opening for love.
Thanks, Harry.
Sister, are you ready?
Oh, Harry, You had me at hello. Big love for you, Harry. And Dinah, even though I'm all the way about 10 feet away from you down the hall, sending you a big virtual hug. And thank you for asking me to share the chapter with you. Because when I opened the book this morning, I don't think I've read that line before. Have I told you I love you today? Steve asks Amy. I know the first time I read it, I judged the hell out of what it was about all these notes and affirmations and what I noticed this morning when I opened it, actually somebody who's been here all weekend, you know, that I really admire. And he's another brother, just like you, Harry. And I texted him this morning and I said, P.S. Have I told you I love you today? Have I told you how happy I am that you are in my life? Have I told you that even though we're on parallel paths, we intertwine at moments of great significance? I don't think I've ever sent a message like that to any living person. And as I was reading, I was just thinking, you know, through my burnout in 2019 and 2020, I would have done a lot of personal development, and I always set this intention to have more love in my life. And I remember when I first got catapulted into this group, and Anne-Marie, you're on the call, you were very pivotal in this. I found myself going, what's with all the love in here? What's with all this free expression of loving kindness, loving you, of blessings? And I found it really hard to take because it seems so unfamiliar. And what I found in the use of that really simple phrase, loving you, that I started to adopt, and this was 2022, not all that long ago, really. What I feel is it's done something to rewire something on the inside. And even though I still have a journey to go in terms of the unconditional state of love that I experienced, both Steve directly and through this book, you know, I think this book is a giant love letter. It's a love letter from Amy to Steve. When I read it about me, it's a love letter from me to me. And the more I step into that, what I notice is this conditionality I have. Oh, you get love, you don't. You get this much love, you get this much love. Harry, you get this much? Yeah. And I notice even thinking that way fundamentally shifts where I see things, how I see life. And, you know, I have, and I still have a lot of shame around not having been married and not being in a loving, committed relationship. And it's only even recently I've begun to dare to say that is what I want, even though it's what that's been my heart's desire all along. But the open expression of that has just been clouded in why hasn't it happened already stuff that's got in the way. So this very simple, even though it's not in this chapter, but what's here for me is this very simple loving you, kind of as a gateway to being more loving, as others have said, of myself, but in realizing that there's enough to go around, you know. And I sat at a conference in Kenya, and Dinah was with me at this actually back in a breathwork conference in August, and this midwife, formidable woman, she said, you know, how do you breathe? Do you breathe generously? Or do you breathe like, oh, I got 2 liters of breath today? And do you realize that you have an infinite amount of oxygen available? So breathe large and breathe deep. And allow yourself more than your 2-liter quota of shallow breath per day, and really take it in. And I feel the same about this chapter. do I love generously? Do I show up from love with others regardless of who they are to me or who I am to them? And I think that for me, I feel this chapter lays down a challenge to love generously, to be loving, to who would I need to be to really be generously loving. Thank you.
Wow,
You're-
love generously. Thank you, sister. And you're 10 feet away, Dinah.
Yes, because
Can
we're
I
together in Arizona.
can I see you hug her?
Oh, she's on the move. Hold on. Live
Yeah,
action. Live
yeah.
action. Hug.
Oh, and we can together hug her as well. Know that.
Okay, Harry. Yeah.
Oh
You
my
see, this is
goodness.
this is my very close friend, and we bonded through adversity, and we've just grown ever since, haven't we, Di?
We have.
Yeah.
We literally climbed a mountain together. Literally.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Hey, thank you for being and doing that. Thank you all for demonstrating love generously. Thank you for spread that message. And right now, as there will be a time to open the space for all of us to speak and to share. So is any task that you would like to share, please raise your virtual hand. There will be the time for all to share our thought and our feeling. And Tanya, is it Tanya here?
Yes, I am. I
Tanya,
see.
can you help me to host from now, because right now it's 11:30 p.m. in Vietnam, and if I speak too loud, my mom and my dad say, "What the hell are you doing?"
You got it,
So
Harry.
I will
Thank you
tell
so
them
much.
to sleep. So Tanya, can you help me to host from now on? Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Harry. Thank you so much for being here. So Mr. Steve Hardison has joined us, and I believe he would like to share some love with everyone. So Steve, I'd love to ask you to unmute, and if you'd like to share something, I'd love to give you that honor.
Let's see.
Oh, you just muted.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So can you hear? Let me turn this other one off. Okay, am I clear now? No?
Yes.
It's got echo here. Do you have
So-
echo over there?
I don't, but if you could mute the one that you have on
Now?
your phone. I don't hear a feedback.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just got interviewed for an IT position to run a department with technology, as you can see why I should. No, I just, Teresa's here with us. That's her bedroom she's in. I don't know where she's at in that room. Where you see Teresa Holdaway. I woke up and I said, let me in. I want to get on here. There she is. I've been knocking on her door. She's at the end of the house. I love you, Teresa.
Hey, I'm right
I wanna
here.
tell
I'm
you guys how
hearing
much I love
everything.
you, and I
I'm
wanted to
just
say
not
something about
visual.
what Carolyn said and what you've all said. I've listened to bits and pieces as I've tried to figure out where I'm at this morning. I have many clients that say, "Man, how do you love people like you do?" And some of you have heard me say, love, the only place love exists is it's not like it doesn't exist, but it only exists after you create it. You can't walk out in the backyard and get some. There's none laying on the shelf. It's not over the neighbor's place. It's not in the swimming pool. It's not in a closet. Go get some of it. So what you're looking for is not gettable unless you create it. So love is a creation. So as we speak love and we think love, we're actually creating it. And I use this analogy in the book. A client told me he needed more love. And I said, you know, I want to give you $5 million. And I have the check, it says million in the book, but it's a $5 million check. He says, what are you giving me that for? I says, well, I'm not giving it to you. You got to earn it. Bring me 1 cup full of love next week and you can have this money. And it blew his mind, or he blew his mind. And I said, but wait, I watch you with Amy and I watch you with your kids. I said, yes, except what it is I'm creating it. I create it by what I say. I create it by how I'm being. I create it what I do. I create it what I think. I create it with what I write. And I said, so I'm never out seeking love. I never go somewhere so someone will love me. I never do something so someone will love me. I'm loving someone to create love in that thing where it's transactional to most people. Mine's just a gift. I'm giving love everywhere I go, the best that I can with whoever I am, stranger, enemy, doesn't matter, just I'm taking love. And so I say to my clients, so if I'm giving love everywhere I go, what do you suppose I'm in the middle of all the time? I'm in love everywhere I go. I'm going to love somebody. I'm going to create it. And from that place, there's so much of it, you don't have to seek it anywhere. You can have a partner, and that would be a nice thing if you want one. By the way, 2 of you that said something about it, I clicked the guy and said, there are 2 ladies on here you ought to meet. So that's loving, but it's just a natural state. So if you're out there looking for it, it's going to be a while because until you invent it, it doesn't exist. And the same is true with fear. Hold on. Maybe I'm mistaken. I see some right here on the shelf. Let me go get, I got a bit of fear over here. Up. It's not there. I'm not saying fear is not real, but it only exists when you create it. I'll make you a deal. 10 million bucks for anybody. I'll give you twice as long as Jonathan for the love. You only have to have a half a cup of fear, and it's a $10 million check you can cash. Anybody want to bring me a half a cup of fear? Okay, then where's it coming from? You're making it up. I'm not saying it isn't real, but it isn't real till you create it. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid to die. Now, something could happen. I go, whoa, now I'm afraid, but I made it up. There is no fear. Hold on. None in this drawer. None in this drawer. None under the scriptures. We could get some going here. You can make it up. Whoa, what's going to happen to me? You made it up. Anyway, that's more than you needed or wanted. Sherry, I love you. Thanks for being there yesterday. Wanda, I love listening to you. Ralph, thanks for being here. Oh my gosh. Andrea, it was so good to hug you. Maria, love you. Tanya, this computer does no this is beautiful here. This is nothing compared to what you look like in real life. You are one of the most beautiful women I've ever physically seen, and your spirit and it's amazing. Teresa, I love you. You're in the back room. I'm come down to open the door and bring a camera in. I will.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Carolyn,
No, you're not.
I know. Carolyn. And Diamond, Dinah, I love you. I remember everything. I remember us talking about you. You actually could get this done. Thanks for doing it. My good girl that gave me that heart and brought all the way from where you came. I've got it in my office. I love it. Thanks for doing everything you did to get here. Dave, you're amazing. Awesome. Look at what you did yesterday. The way you can. Miss Owen, I got to hug you and love you yesterday. Laura, I can't see you and I love you. Damien, thanks for the couple times we spoke. What fun it was to see this couple right here. Thank you both. Violetta, thank you. Ellen, thanks for all the support and everything you've done with this group. Steve, I love the comments you always have what you're doing. Oh my gosh, can look at that. There's Martha back there. Thank you. I can only see part of the faces. There you go. I love you both. Anna Marie. Oh, look at that. We got the whole group together. EPAC. We got Bina. Who's over? I got kind of a glare in the background. I love whatever's there. Okay, let's see. Penny Orton.
Bina,
thanks for taking the
Martha,
time to go and talk to my wife and tell her what a brilliant job. Harry, thanks for the time we had in India. That was amazing. I learned so much from you. Marcia, I need to get to know you more and know that I love you. I don't need to know you to love you. Olga, I can't wait for you to be here today. You got about 30 or 40 people that are going to come to church to listen to you speak, and they've never been to our church, and they're coming about you. Elizabeth, it was so much fun. Something nobody knew. We had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich together, and you didn't go tell a bunch of people because I ran out of all my peanut butter. If we did that, I love you all. Oh, hold on a second. We got a page 2. I was on my little cell phone. Who knows where stuff's at? Let's make sure we didn't miss anybody.
So is everybody
Oh,
noticing?
Jorge, I see you down in the corner. I loved our dance together, sweetheart. In another life, you and I'd be it. Gracie,
Hey,
thanks for saying hello to
Steve,
me.
show
Huh?
everybody your beautiful eyes without your glasses on.
This is a really good night's sleep. Let's see. I can't
You
see
have
that,
never
right?
seen bluer eyes in your life.
I love that. And anybody that I didn't see your name, know that I love you too. And like I say, you've heard it, but maybe hear it again where you're listening from. You have ideas in your mind about people that you dislike. Some of them you've met, some of them you don't even know. Some of them you just read about, or some of them you hear about on the news and you don't even know if what was being said is accurate. And even if it is, someone you don't know lives in another country and you think, I don't like those people. So you make up an idea of not liking or hating or distrusting. So if you can make that up, I'm just going to make up, I love them, they're great, and I can deal with them, and it'll be just a lot of fun. Because this whole life's a creation. It begins with our thinking. What we say about ourselves and what we say about others gives us our reality, my opinion. Who knows? I'm just one dude in the game. I do know this. I love each of you, and I don't say that like some. I'm like, man, I'm committed to love you. Love is this. When I speak love, it says, this is who I'm going to be for you, and you can be whoever you want, but I'm going to love you. That's probably more than you wanted to get, and I didn't even know that you could see me because I don't even know how to use that thing yet. I lost my wallet at the thing, and the gal says, "Don't you have a one of those little finders that find your wallet?" So I get up for my keys and my wallet, but I don't know how to use the damn thing. She says, "Just go push this button." See? Wow, guy can barely walk and talk, and he can love. That's the important thing. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Steve.
Stephen.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your love, truly. You know, one of the greatest things that I got from what you said and from this book reading was that love is a constant creation, and so is fear. So if we are in constant creation, being cognizant of is or are our creations in alignment with what we truly want to create? And if not, take a deep breath and ask ourselves, truly, how are we loving ourselves? And get in action in that space. And then from there, just honor and know that everything else will flow through as we allow the love to flow through our own hearts.
I
So
love you,
thank
Anne
you.
Marie.
Thank you.
I love you, Anne Marie.
So with my kids.
And then your son just beat them.
We're talking to Tweeden sons. So we love you guys. You're amazing.
Oh, you are on speaker.
All right.
You're on speaker.
All right. Ladies, did you want to say something? Ladies outside in the living room, did you want to say something?
We just wanted to say how absolutely amazing our whole community is and how much it's elevated our being, and just being present with each and every one that was in that room and being present with each and every one through connections regardless of where you're at. So it's just an amazing space, and it's grown all of us in so many ways. So yeah, being love. And here's
I
our
also
beautiful
want
Ethan.
to say something. Anyone in this call, if you couldn't make it to Arizona, try to go there because it's unbelievably amazing experience. Please do.
Tanya, could I make another comment?
Absolutely.
I love what Ipek just said, and even if you can't go, there's a man named Matt Evans. Please take the time, literally, each of you, to tell him thank you for what he's doing, whether you go or not. Imagine if today he's putting in an enormous amount of time. It'd be like what Judy's doing. Text him, write him, email him, and say, Matt, We know what a great job you're doing. We fully support you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And even if you can't go, acknowledge him. That's 40 people that would say thanks for doing it. It'll lift his spirits, help him over a little challenge. And do it in your own way. And but you know, you don't have to know Matt to let him know you appreciate him. And you know, even say, EPEC said, hey, we ought to go. And I'm thinking about it, or I won't be able to go, but man, I'm supporting you. That's anyone can do that. Anyone in my voice can do that. Matt Evans, go to the Ultimate Coach Facebook group, go face his own Facebook page. We're on a little call this morning. EPEC said something about the thing, and I thought I should tell you, great job. And when you see him post something on somewhere and he's inviting people to do something, say, way to go, Matt. I won't be there, but man, if I know somebody will, just give him some love and help him. So it would be great if everyone could go, but if you can't go. Send your spirit over to him ahead of time, maybe more than once. I mean, how would you like to be having a project and you get stuff, say, hey, way to go, let's do it. From people you know or you don't know. So if you're willing to do that, just raise your literal hand. For Matt, you have to, don't, there's no game pressure. It's like, if you want to do that, raise your hand. Okay, Farai, I can't see you. And Gracie, I met you yesterday. I can't see you. Tom, I can't see you. Diamond, I can't see you, but I'll say that your hands are up. I'll just guess that your hands are up. And don't wait a long time to do it. Have it so when he wakes up or goes to bed, it's like, what the hell just hit me? Now, let me introduce you to somebody, since we've stolen your show.
Yeah, right. That's why that's why the door gets locked.
I was going in. Shit, that wasn't locked. I was going to go cuddle with her last night. It'd be big time.
That's why the door is locked.
Are we interrupting, or can we tell you something?
You can tell us anything you want,
Tell them
Steve.
who
I just
slept with
love
you
seeing
the
the love
night
right now.
before. Tell them, they'll need to know this.
Oh, Ankush sleeps with me every night.
In our guest room, we have a big picture of Ankush. So when she sees Ankush, she said, I slept with you last night. Man, you should have seen his eyes go. And the people that were listening. Anyway, this is our story, and we're sticking to it.
You got it.
Well, thank you for demonstrating and sharing your generous love to your beautiful sister. I honor you, Steve, and I honor your sister as well for being a part of Team Tuck, truly being a massive loving force throughout our team that we carry on and create for the community and share in the community. So thank you, Teresa, for who you be for all of us. And thank you, Steve, for truly demonstrating your massive love this weekend in person. It truly is something that you have to experience and be present to and open to as well. And thank you. Thank you for loving all of us the way you do. Beautiful role model. At this time, I'd love to open it up to the community and hear your shares. So I'd love to come around to Ralph. Thank you so much, Ralph, for joining us on this amazing chapter. Oh, sorry about that. I just, you got it.
I'm unmuted now, yeah. I'd
There you go.
initially put my hand up first to say, let's give Damien some encouragement on the drive. I can see you're tired, Damien, but I think Steve just woke us all up. What else I wanted to share was, I mean, I've done years and years of counseling and years of community work. And what this book and this movement and everyone, with Steve at the root, but everyone as many beautiful component parts, has taught me is that I can create love into my life. So it's given me the encouragement to consciously create the love that I needed to create, which I'd already been creating in the world, but I hadn't been able to create in relation to myself. And yesterday, I don't know when you all wound up in the States, but I woke up at 4 a.m. with a really clear idea. How about a Book of Being board game, so that we, like a card game or a board game, where we can share the principles of being and love with the family where a lot of us experience love. So I didn't know how to go about that and whose permission to ask. And I was wondering, should I ask Steve's permission? which would have been our first direct interaction. And Steve's here, so I'm just putting the idea out there to create that with the community if it's something that would be welcome.
Ask me the specific question so I can know what you're requesting.
Well, I'm putting it to the community. Could we together create a card or board game? And I envisaged the deck of cards with the exclamation mark on the back,
Yes.
where concepts that are discussed in the book and the community can be shared with the younger generations as we play a card or board game. So that's just what came to my mind. I don't think there is a specific question. It was more of a concept
Yes.
that
so
really
you
came
wanted
to me clearly.
But your kind of your question is that okay to do?
I
Is
guess
that
so,
your
yeah.
question you're kind of asking for permission about that? And isn't that what you're doing? You're being very gracious to say, is this okay to do? Is that not also true?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
an
yes.
idea I had, which I'm putting to us all.
Watch how easy this is. For those of you who were at the event last night, they had to put up with me. I wasn't even supposed to be on the schedule, and somehow I snuck in or whatever. And I let people know that there were 3 things. I acknowledged a few people. I made an announcement. I introduced Amy. And the announcement I made is that Amy and I, my last official duty, we both retired and we're refocusing. And I'm not retiring from coaching, and I'm not retiring from loving or being, but I'm retiring from, some guys, when they retire, they go back and go in again, like today. I'm retiring from being on the book readings, podcasts, and all this stuff, and speaking. And there's so many other people that can fill that place that are really, really great and will grow people. So that question, it would go to the leader of the Being movement, who is Eric Lawful. That actually has nothing to do with me other than you're very kind to see how I would do with it. I own nothing. Not only that, not my house or my car. I'm not attached to anything, but it's structurally set up by a man who's put a lot of energy in it. So that would be for me, go for it. I love it, but you better work it through what you got going on. Dave Orton over there is one who actually invented the name The Being Movement. I never needed a book. I don't need a movement. I don't need an organization. I don't need a follower. I don't need a signature in a book. I just need to be loving, kind with who I am. And when I crap on myself, clean it up, get some big tissues, and start again. That's it. So what a great idea. Mine's a yes, but that shouldn't hold any weight inside of something I don't run.
That's very clear.
Question?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
And when I say I retired, it's not like I'm going away. It's going to take 2 guns to get me down. But I am refocusing. I'm putting my love and attention on my wife, on my God, on my grandkids. And you can do all that at the same time, but it takes away from that to do this. And there are so many people that can do this part. Did you listen to those speakers? We had 27 different people speak. No wonder they didn't want me on the program. See? Yes, I would go with your game, and I love it. What an honor. It's crazy good. Just make sure that when you're working with Eric or whatever, you get the exclamation point, because you don't want to just have a different shape. You want to keep something so that people, when they see that, they think of this. Not me, not the book, about this, whatever's here this is. And it could be as big as anybody wants to lead it. And each one of you can be leaders of it. It's not like a recruiting place. It's not like a church. It's like sharing love with people. So, you don't need anybody's permission. But structurally, if you do something that is going to compete with something that you don't know, I'd run everything through. And Eric may assign people to do stuff, but right now it's run it through Eric and ask him. And it's not like just create an idea like you would with anyone. It's like, hey, can I do this? Like, give me a yes or no. It's like, let me tell you why I think we should do it. Let me tell you what would be good about doing it. And be okay if you're told no on some stuff. I love your idea. I love your idea. It's brilliant. So for me, as asking Steve Hardison, heaven, yes. It's Sunday, so I didn't say hell. Yes. Okay. Can I say one more thing, Tanya?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to clean something up here, like SOB, and I don't do swearing. So when I love you, Dave. So I say bullshit, and people are like, man, he swears. And I say, no, so do cows. I just throw the so do cows and then say bullshit, so do cows, so do humans. I just clean it up. So there's got to be something around there on SOB too, Dave. I don't know what it is, but figure I used it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll listen.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll listen till the end, and then I've got to get ready, be with Olga, and she's bringing a bunch of people coming to church. They're gonna go, these are freaky people. Love you.
I'll see you soon. Beautiful.
Love you, little man, Mr. Man over there with your tongue coming out. Little guy. Thank you.
Thank
Not-
you, Ralph.
Not so freaky people.
All right, Wanda, I see your beautiful hand up. Sweetheart, would you like to share?
Yes, absolutely. And it's just so wonderful to be here. And I just want to say something directly to Steve, because this is such a wonderful and beautiful surprise to have your presence here today. And I can certainly feel the love. And I just like to say that I love you, Steve Hardison. And I love you for being you. Like just with everything that you do. And there was last Saturday, a story in the book about how you were explaining thoughts to people or to a person in relation to how they worked. And you put these sticky notes on your head. And it just brought so much laughter to me and so much joy because you're being you. And it gives me permission in a way to be me. And I love that. I love you, Steve Hardison. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was something that Harry put in the chat, because someone said something about self-development. And Harry said, what about a love development movement? I thought, yeah, Harry, I'm all in for that. And a couple of years ago, I contributed a story to a compilation book that was about forgiveness. And so part of what we were asked to do was a little sort of bio piece, just 3 or 4 sentences, who we are, what we do. And I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to say. And then I came up with this term, which is love expansionist, because that's part of what came out of writing the story for me, is I wanted to create more love in the world. I wanted to be more love, and I wanted to create more love. And it's partly, the inspiration comes partly from my experience in life. And so I just came up with this term, love expansionist. And so now there's this idea that's been born in my mind about expanding love. And the message has been heard in a very big way, because here I am in this group. And I've been talking to other people about this group and the book and the book reading sessions that I participated in. And I say, I have never been connected with a group of people that is so much about love. Like everybody. I've never had that experience in a group before. And so I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. I love that. Love expansionist. That is what we're doing. We are expanding love. I believe how we are being, that is what we are expanding through our being. And so if we are choosing love, that's what we are doing. We are expanding it. So I love how you identified it as that. It's beautiful. Thank you, Wanda, for sharing.
Thank you.
Maria, would you like to share, honey? Great to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good to see everybody. Um, Forgive me if I start to cry, but I had to share with you um, a beautiful story of love. Um, I'm a vocal teacher, and one of the things, programs that I have helped to develop is it's called I'm a Star, and it's where special needs um, people who love the arts like I do, they come and they're able to sing, dance, and act, and we give them that opportunity to be who they are without judgment. Well, one of the men that I ran into, his name is Mark, and he's my age, and he has Williamson syndrome. Most people die when they're really young with Williamson syndrome, but he was 57. And so he loved to sing. He sang at the Grand Ole Opry 2 times, and was just the most amazing example of love that I've ever come across. He loved in a way that expanded me for all the years. He gave me one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever gotten as a teacher. You know, because he's 57, he's been studied by all these major universities because of his disease. And he came to me after one day of poking and prodding, and he said, I've been poked and prodded all day long. He said, Maria, can we just worship? And he and I share the same faith. And so he gave me a half hour of just him and I worshiping the God that we love so much. That was such a gift. Mark loved everyone. He spread the word of love. He was love. He stood for God. And Mark went on to be with the Lord 2 weeks ago. So although I will miss him, oh my gosh, as a possibility, I told his mom, as a possibility, he had to live 57 years because I had to meet him in order to understand what love is. And I believe that 100%. Mark has a handprint on my heart that will stay there and bloom and grow. And from that, so much more love will grow because he planted that in me. So I just wanted to tell everybody about Mark and what a beautiful man he was. I want to say one more thing too. You know, I talked to his mom and she said he wasn't feeling good and she kind of gave me the circumstances. Do you know that his father was massaging his shoulders and his mother was massaging his feet when the angels came to get him? They were still serving this beautiful man. So, anyways, I just wanted to share a moment of Mark with you. Beautiful man. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. You know, what I got in there even at the end was, you know, how he was of service and how people were of service to him through his love. So what a ricochet, what a boomerang effect love creates when we create it ourselves. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, and blessings to you for having that experience of his love. Mr. Damien. Okay, be careful driving or pull over, sir, or I'll go to the next one and come back to you, but I want you to be safe because I love you.
Pulled over.
Okay.
Oh man. Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm fighting it. I've been driving 4 hours. I got 2 more to go. Well, I was holding on to like once this phone call's over, then I'll pull over and take a nap. Anyway, you know, the experience was unbelievable. You know, it was like, I met Dinah, and I like that she brought up about the passport because for me, when I meet people I don't know, and there's so much like loving energy, I forget. I forget names. I forget the experience was very exciting and happy, a little overwhelming, you know, a little envious sometimes. There's so much love going on. Like, you know, sometimes I would feel part of it, not feel part of it, you know, and I would, you know, get excited to be part of it and get shut down and walk outside sometimes. And, but I love that I met everybody, and now I can't wait to the next one. It's like, you know, I got a lot of energy, but sometimes I shut down, not letting too much love in, if that makes any sense, you know? And like I wanted to hug Steve before we left, and I was like, I should. Now he's so busy, I didn't, you know? And then he comes on here, and I get reminded, you know, you should have walked back in and hugged him goodbye. But you know, it brought up a lot of stuff. You know, I want to do public speaking. I want to do like Steve Brandy, that's his name, Steve, the black guy. Like how he was so, you know, there was so many speakers that they were just so.
I said goodbye for both of us on that.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, there's Steve now again, huh?
Yeah, he's in the background.
I'm saying, I got mad that I didn't say, I give him a hug goodbye, and then I hear his voice now. So, yeah. So I like everybody that I let the love, accepting it and accepting people, then I would get shut down sometimes. So it was an unbelievable experience. The speakers and everything was so powerful, exciting, and overwhelming at the same time. And that's me shutting down and being open, you know? And I love, you know, I'm terrible. And also I have this, you know, growing up, giving people nicknames, so I forget people's names a lot of times. And I love that he said, the last person who spoke about the card game, that would be so easy. Who do I need to be? You know, you pick a card up. Who do I need to be this? So I love I met everybody, and I'm overwhelmed and overexcited to be part of this. You know, I'm overwhelmed and overexcited to be part of this. And I'm going to leave off with this. The loudest thing Steve said is, if you're feeling lovable, how can you not pass that on? But the loudest thing he said was, just create it first, which is a great reminder. Just create it. You know, I know how to be moved. I know how to be get in a mood and be stuck with it. So being in a loving mood and be stuck with it, you know? Hi, Diana. Diana sent the message. Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, you know, yeah, hi, Diana, hello. And it's like, we had a million conversations about the passport. I forgot all about it. And so that's it. I'm just overexcited of being part of this. And everybody's reminding me to be more present, of accepting people's love and remembering their name, and just slow down. And yeah, so thank you for calling on me. Yeah, thank you. Big hug to everybody.
Well, thank you, Damien. It was an honor to meet you and hug you and sit very close to you. And catch
yo,
your
just
eye contact every now and then when I knew it was just like coming to us, and I could just feel the energy. And you know, I think that one of the greatest things too, if whoever else is on, if you could please place yourselves on mute so there's not a background.
Tanya,
Yes. Yes. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Dinah. Yes.
Yes. We're really sorry, but we have to go. We have to leave our Airbnb.
Okay, that's okay. Go ahead. We're going a little longer because I'm allowing the shares today. But we will be closing soon. Thank you so much, both of you, for reading. I honor you both and love you. Thank you for being present and showing me love as well. And we'll catch up soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful day as you go on your adventure.
And we'll see you later, Tanya.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So Damien, what I was saying is just, you know, all that energy, right? There was so much overflowing energy of love in the room vibrationally. We even blew the power out in the building. Okay. Come on now. Like, come on now. Like that's how much love was vibrationally just flowing and just you could just feel it. It was at just a totally different level. If you're coming from trauma and you're coming from a place of not receiving that on a regular basis, or this is something that you have never experienced, it could absolutely feel overwhelming and like, whoa, wait a minute, I need to like take my shoes off and ground me because this is a lot. And it takes time to even process, but can we imagine to operate in love and out of love in this world, who we could be to really operate in this world? And us, each of us, you, Damien, you, Misan, you, Renate, you, Laura, Tom, Wanda, Ralph, if all of us operated at that higher level of vibrational energy of love, what we can do and the impact that we can create in the world. And so I love what the experience was a demonstration of, because it was the most phenomenal experience I think many of us ever experienced in our lives. And it wasn't created alone. Get that. Get that. Judy is a phenomenal creator and manifester. However, she created a team. She enrolled people in her vision once she had her vision, and she enrolled people in her vision with love. And through that, other people had and expanded the vision with their love. So imagine each one of those speakers expanded their vision with love and love and love and love. And look at how magnificently everything was created. And so I just, as a takeaway, Damien, just as a reminder, you don't have to do it alone. However, the creation of love does start with self, but we don't have to do it alone. And I think that's one of my greatest takeaways now. And it was my greatest takeaway 2 years ago. But now even seeing it, experiencing it, witnessing it at such an even greater level of what can be created with love and support. Oh my goodness. World, watch out now, because you have vibrational love around the world, throughout every country, okay, here sharing and loving. And so just so excited that you were a part of it. So thank you for sharing.
Big hug to everybody.
Absolutely. So this is for me. Okay. So Miss Martha had her hand raised before, but now she's joining me. So Miss Martha, did you have something that you wanted to share?
I do. Whoa, what a weekend. What a fabulous 2 days of engaging with so many beautiful people that we've seen each other on Zoom, and we got to hug each other and love each other and see each other's eyes. I know Renate and Tom and Damien, it was so beautiful. So what's coming forward for me right now is we speak about being love and being in the loving and coming from that place. And what came forward for me yesterday afternoon and all evening was, you know, for me, it's how do I apply being love in the midst of my chaos? In the midst of my pain, in the midst of my sadness, in the midst of my sorrow, in the midst of anger, in the midst of not knowing which direction I'm going to take. It's easy when things are going well, you know, when things are going well, when we love each other. But when we are in that place of sadness or anger or deep concern, how do we stay in the loving? How do I stay in that place of loving where I'm not judging the other or the circumstance, where it's such judgment? I'm angry because, and the reality is that there's a place inside of me that's being called to a deeper level of healing. And I don't have the space or the capacity to go there when I'm in that chaos. And so really for me, the art or the blessing or the grace of being in the loving is to apply that deep level of loving when I'm in that place of chaos or anger or pain or sadness or grief. Because it's easy to love. And I think that is the ultimate gift from the Creator, is to be able to be in that place with such deep conviction that I am love, that I am the loving, that I am the grace, that I am the blessing. This weekend was marvelous to see that. You know, people have gone through major issues. I've not gone through any when I look at my own. But we all come to that place of how can I hold that space for myself? How can I hold it deeply so that I can then have the compassion for the other who's going through it deeply? Being in this call today, especially all of us who have been in this incredible place this weekend. I've had 2 hours sleep, maybe 3. And yet I honor all of us who, not myself certainly, but the rest of you who have come forward at early morning here in Arizona to be present for each of you and for each of us. So thank you. And thank you for being at the movement. Nusan, I love you. It was so beautiful holding you. That's all. Thank you.
You know, you said something really powerful to me last night. And in that midst of that chaos is clarity.
Yes.
And, you know, my saying, clear the clutter and chaos for clarity and creativity. And one of the biggest things that I'm learning today is that love is a constant creation. And in that saying is so I can be calm and confident with commitment and conviction.
Yes, because in that commitment and conviction and clarity, then we can take the steps that sometimes are very difficult to take.
So thank you for sharing that with me in that moment, because that was the magic. Group hug. Group hug.
I'm here on top.
Gina's here too.
We hug you all.
Group hug.
We hug you all. We bring you into
Everybody.
our...
Everybody.
I have to go. Bye, everyone.
We all have
Love
to
you
go.
guys.
Safe trip for everybody.
Safe trip wherever you're traveling to, across the world, across the planet, across California, Arizona.
Bye, you guys. Have fun.
These are my 2 words. Be kind. And to be love, you have to be kind.
Amen.
Love you. I love you guys. Thank you all for being there to support me and help me grow. Because of all of you, I'm able to love myself so I can love everyone else. You are my family.
I love you.
I love you. Safe travels.
All right. Wow. Do you guys feel that love? It is massively abundant. I will never operate on the same level that I used to operate on 2 days ago. I will always operate now at a different level because of the love that I have experienced. So imagine if we give that level of experience of love to someone else. Just as a possibility, how our world might be different. And to think that one person, just one person can't make a difference, that's not true. Because look at what Amy Hardison did. Look at what she did. Look what Alan D. Thompson. And look at what their love is creating, the ripple effect it's creating in all of us. One person. I would love to call on Nisan before I close the call. And I'm leaving it open today, and we are going a little longer just because of this powerful chapter. And I want to give the opportunity or anyone that wanted to share. Today, we will not be having an after party because we are checking out of our Airbnb and I need to go. So I would just love to give that opportunity now. So Misun, are you there, honey? I see your hand raised. Yep. Hello, I got to hug you too. Are you available to share? Would you like to share now? And hello, Precious.
Oh. Yeah. Hi. I'm sorry, I was on the phone. Yeah, with Catherine Puta. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. It's a. I don't know what I was about to share, but I really. That's just so true that we can create love. From my experience, my relationship with my husband, I I can tell I completely created a new relationship with my husband. Yeah, so it's just so true, and anyone can do that. What I did was like, I really like this Steve Aldison or JP Morgan that he talks about like speaking as creating. I create as I speak. And so document was a really good tool for me. So one thing I was resisting to my husband was he wants to be leader in the house. He wants to be a king in the house. And I had such a strong resistance to that. I couldn't admit he is that person.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And so I made my declaration about that. Like I truly love and respect my husband Jonathan as a king in our family. And I just repeated it whenever I feel that resistance. And at some point, I don't know when, but I discovered myself within deep myself. I really want him to be that. I'm not perfect yet, but just because I want it, I can see he's becoming more and more becoming that really. Yeah. So that is the king, right? Yeah. Yeah, that was so I like really believe that we can create love. And that's true. And from the event, what I got was I was crying whole time when Steve Bacon was talking. Whole time I was just completely one with that energy. Like I thought it was anger energy, which is expressed by the actor on the stage.
That's true.
Yeah, I thought it was the anger at first. And like, let me finish this.
Make you laugh
After I talk, yeah. So I just, at first I thought I was crying because that was my life. I screamed that way so many times in my life, most of my young life, especially. And I just screamed and cry. That was my life. But after all that energy went through me, what I realized was it was not really anger. It was not just grief. It was actually the energy within me that is telling me there is something deeply you desire. There is something which is really want to be fulfilled within yourself, but you're not looking at that. So it's expressed as anger, frustration, grief, sadness, but it was really my deep, wholehearted desire. That desire was, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want to be loved. And that was a complete healing for myself. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for listening, and thank you for the distraction. Sorry for the distraction here.
No problem. Oh my goodness. How beautiful. Thank you so much for your powerful share, Misan. You know, Steve Bacon's demonstration and time on the stage was truly overwhelmingly impactful for all that we're able to witness. And I love that created that piece for you. I love what I totally am in love with what it created for you. Blessings to you, Lisa. Blessings. And it was such an honor to hug you and love you.
Blessings to Michael too.
Yes. And you know, and an extension of that really is I loved the impact of how we can understand what we're doing generationally, of who we're being in love, of who we're being as love for our children, and who and how we are demonstrating how to love our partner to our children. That to me is again, it's opened me up at a different level, and a willingness. It's opened up my willingness to create at a different level. Yeah. So thank you for being a demonstration and example of what you are creating in your relationship for your family, Misa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I really can see that how it's important for next generation who I need to be for my son, for myself, you know. And he's really picks up my declaration. And one day I asked him, you wanna say I am? He said yes. So I was just thinking something simple like I'm loving, I'm kind, that kinds of things. So I asked him, okay, do you want to repeat after me? He said, no, I want to do my own. And then what he said was just, I was blown away. Like he said, you want to say I am? No. Yeah. He said was, I am infinite being. I am unconditional love. I am gift from God. I am serving people. That's what he said. And he's really, you know, saying that a lot. And when I'm getting very emotional, he's telling me, Mommy, it's okay. You are a child of God. You're okay. You're unconditional love. So I really see that in my life. Like, oh my God, it's just a complete transformation.
Again to me.
What a precious little angel you have there with you, Misan.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Blessings to you and your family. Thank you for sharing. Truly, thank you. Okay, Renate, if you could keep it to like 1 minute because we really have to go.
Yeah, I just want to say how grateful I am that I met you all. And yeah, there's so much love, and I'm in a house here, invited with Wolfgang and Dorothy together, and we are showered with love here, and they expressing that they experience me as pure love, and I realized I have a bit of difficulties to taking that in, like 100% to accept that. And I'm seeing a good family life here, what I didn't experience for myself. And I think what I discovered during this year in the being movement and with the book readings and now with the experience of Arizona, I think I am ready to open the door so love can come back into my life. So I'm declaring an open door policy for love now. And thank you all. I'm still processing.
Yes, and be gentle with yourself in that processing, truly. I just really want to thank you. Thank you for being so brave and courageous and all the things you did to create to get here to Arizona. And thank you for sharing your love through your rocks as you shared them throughout the event. So I really, really appreciate you sharing and spreading your love. And, you know, sharing and spreading our love doesn't have to end here. As a matter of fact, this is the beginning through the awareness and through the creation. And so I want to extend that love. You know, for the event for Arizona, we were supporting an organization of Operation Underground for child trafficking, sex trafficking. And so there is a link. There is a link where you still have the opportunity to donate and help. And what this money is doing is it is actually helping carry on and carry through operations to go and save these children from a life that they do not deserve, because God's children are not for sale. But it takes money. I have a very deep connection to this, and it is a massive interagency operation. And it is multinational, it is international, and it is multi-agency. So imagine the collaboration that it takes. Imagine the unification that it takes, and imagine the amount of money that it takes to create these operations. So this is what we are funding. We are funding the creation of these operations, and we are funding the movement to go and bring these children home. So if you feel the calling of your heart, and you feel it, that you want to have anything to do, and if you can't, if you don't have the means to share yourself, I'm asking you if you would be willing to share the QR code, to share something on your Facebook page, or to share in your community the possibility of someone else being able to share and spread their love, and also be a part of this movement to help and save these children. It would be a great honor. And so I just kind of wanted to close with that now I'll pass it over to our third beautiful moderator, Miss Maria, to close us out with a couple of announcements. If Maria is still with us. Maria, are you still there?
No, she's gone.
Okay, she's gone. So I'll just close it out. We do have an upcoming experience in 2B24 in Birmingham, London, and it will be May 25th and 26th, coming up very soon. And this particular event will be supporting children from the Cochlear Hospital, and it will be providing the funds and means to help children hear. For those, imagine what we need to do to listen. Imagine not being able to know. Imagine the life that we can recreate for these children that don't have that natural born ability to listen and hear at the capacity that we can. So this is what this particular event will be supporting. All means, again, all monies that come in go to support these organizations like the sex trafficking and the Cochlear Hospital. So if you feel it in your heart, again, I believe Steve said earlier, reach out to Fiona, reach out to Matt. If you feel a calling on your heart to be of any support for this upcoming event, support is needed, wanted, and with a unified maximum amount of love, we can create what the intention is to create. But it's not done alone. It truly is a unified effort. It is a unified effort and a collaboration of love for a reason. And it's a beautiful reason. And in that, we also are served in our giving. We have no idea what gifts will come back to us, but that's not why we do it. We do it because our heart is in it to do it, but without expectation to receive anything. And when we do it in that means, without expectation to receive, blessings be upon you. Blessings will be upon you. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Those of you that were at the event, thank you for waking up early and still being here. Even though you have been filled through this event, thank you for being here. And so at this time, I just want to close this now and say thank you and I love you. And we'll see you next time. Our next book reading event will be on Wednesday, and it will be for chapter 36. Fun, fun, fun. So come and join, and we'll see you then. All right. Until then, much love and blessings on your travels. Take care.
Drive
Thank you,
safely,
Tanya, for you
Damien.
too.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Next one, I will be with the roosters again.
Big hug
Safe
and thank you.
travels.